Where do the drug lords live? A rhetorical question with no definite answer, it seems. But the Colombian president seems to be sure about the location, which according to him is next to Donald Trump's Miami residence. Let's break this down for you. In a bold and fiery statement, Petro has taken direct aim at the U.S. military strikes against Venezuelan boats in the Caribbean. He has accused the U.S. of targeting the wrong people. He claims that the real drug traffickers are not the poor fishermen struggling on the boats, but the powerful elite living in the world's wealthiest cities, like Miami, where Petro boldly suggests drug traffickers are even neighbors to Trump himself. That statement on your screen. In fact, the stakes got higher when Petro, during his speech at the UN General Assembly, escalated his criticism of the U.S. and condemned its military strikes in the Caribbean. Not just that, he accused President Trump of turning poverty and migration into crimes. Not stopping there, he also called for a criminal probe into the actions of his U.S. counterpart. Listen to this.
A criminal process should be initiated against those officials from the United States, including the highest-ranking official who gave the order, President Trump, who allowed rifles to be fired at young people who simply wanted to escape poverty.
That's not all. The remarks coming just days after the Venezuelan president turned up the heat on Washington. He taunted Trump's administration over the hypocrisy of drug accusations. Maduro blasted Washington's moral authority and asked them to look for drugs in their own turf and not in Venezuela.
If you want to find marijuana, look in the U.S., where they produce super synthetic marijuana, and it's legal, both production and consumption. What can they say about Venezuela? They have no moral ground. In Venezuela, it remains illegal and will stay illegal. We will never fall for the stupid trend of legalizing any drug.
Adding fuel to the fire, Maduro revealed that Venezuela is now drafting constitutional decrees to defend its sovereignty against potential U.S. military action. He accused the Trump administration of using drug trafficking as a pretext for military intervention, further worsening the tensions. And as Petro and Maduro stand united in defiance, Trump is caught in this geopolitical crossfire, with the policies now under fierce scrutiny from two South American leaders. The clash over the drug trade is no longer just about boats in the Caribbean. It's also about the fight for sovereignty and introspection. Pakistan's setbacks never end, and now, according to the World Bank, Pakistan's poverty has risen again, reaching 25% of the population in 2024. That's nearly 1 in 4 Pakistanis living below the poverty line. The World Bank citing economic shocks, floods, weak structural reforms as the main reasons. But it's a fact hardly disputed by anyone that many of these economic shocks and structural challenges are a result of the Pakistan government's own failures. Be that political instability, frequent changes in the government, military rule, high political polarization, they all create policy inconsistencies and other foreign investment and deter foreign investment as well. Even the World Bank report pointing to weak fundamentals, low productivity in labor-absorbing sectors, poor public services, limited access to education and training. Many who escape poverty remain just above the threshold, leaving them vulnerable to the economic disruptions. The study used Pakistan's national poverty line, international measures suggesting even higher rates. The advisor to the finance minister acknowledged recent setbacks, but said the government had expanded welfare programs, invested in job creation, and was working to better target the subsidies. Saying, and I'm quoting here, these priorities are aligned with the broader reform agenda, ensuring that Pakistan not only cushions vulnerable households against shocks, but also creates the conditions for inclusive and sustained poverty reduction. In fact, that's what the government says, but here's where Pakistan actually stands. Unemployment remains at 8%, adult literacy around 60%. According to the IMF data, Pakistan's inflation rate, based on average consumer prices, has risen by 5.1% over the past year, which just tells us how much pressure there actually is on the household budgets across Pakistan. And if that was not enough, remittances, the lifeline for millions, slipping from $3.2 billion in July to $3.1 billion in August 2025. For the youngest, in fact, the most vulnerable, around 2.14 million children are suffering from acute malnutrition. Pakistan is also relying heavily on external credit, with $6.69 billion in outstanding IMF loans. And while the government says it has expanded welfare programs and invested in job creation, challenges remain. For example, security concerns. In recent months, Pakistan, the terror exporter, has itself faced a rise in terror incidents, so-called terror incidents, including the bombing of the Quetta-bound Jafar Express, which injured at least 12 people. And then there is this week's military airstrike in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The military airstrikes targeting Tehreek-e-Taliban bomb-making operations reportedly killed 30 people, including civilians. A major surge in terror attacks and the swelling number of civilian casualties propelling Pakistan to the second spot on the Global Terrorism Index 2025. In 2025, there have been over 1,000 terrorism-related incidents in Pakistan. These incidents posing more questions about Pakistan's intelligence and counter-terrorism effectiveness, because while ordinary Pakistanis struggle to make ends meet, Pakistan's military coffers seem to be getting bigger. It's no secret at this point that Pakistan military continues to hold significant business interests. The Fauji Foundation, which is controlled by the Pakistan Army alone, is valued at nearly $6 billion, and numerous other military-linked companies dominate Pakistan's economy. Even as ordinary citizens face rising food and fuel prices and job insecurity, it's because of this that even the United States has recommended placing Pakistan's defense and intelligence budgets under civilian oversight in order to improve transparency. The situation is clear: rising poverty, limited access to public services, high inflation, increasing security threats, and most importantly, the Pakistan government's misplaced priorities are all converging to challenge Pakistan's path to stability and growth. And the government could do better by focusing on the welfare of its citizens instead of actually depriving the people on the ground of opportunities to grow. Instead of exporting terror and filling up the coffers of military generals, this is the terror state of Pakistan we are talking about. Our next story is about a major row that has erupted after Republican Senate candidate Alexander Duncan made a highly controversial remark about a 90-foot statue of Lord Hanuman. His comments have sparked a lot of outrage, with critics accusing him of promoting religious intolerance. Duncan raised concerns about the statue and went so far as to assert that the U.S. is a Christian nation and that such symbols of other faiths should not be allowed. Naturally, the outrageous remarks drew immediate criticism online. Leading the charge, the Hindu American Foundation. In a formal letter to the Republican Party of Texas, they demanded that the party take action against Duncan, calling his words a direct violation of its own anti-discrimination guidelines. They also pointed out how Duncan's comments seem to disregard the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Despite the growing backlash, though, Duncan is unapologetic. He maintains that his comments were not intended to target Hindus, but rather to express his concern over what he views as the moral decay of the nation. He claims his remarks are no way anti-Hindu. He went to the extent of saying, I'm quoting here, "We know what happens when a nation worships man-made idols," quote unquote. And while the anger over his comments mounts, what's also happened is that this controversy has put the spotlight on the Establishment Clause, which is part of the First Amendment to the US Constitution. It prevents the government from endorsing or promoting any particular religion and protects the right of the Americans to freely practice their faith without interference. Duncan's refusal to apologize is only making matters worse, adding more fuel to this fire. Just for context here, he is a Republican Senate candidate from Texas. He is running on a platform focused on faith, family, and individual freedom, and has a background in law enforcement. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.